I was recently in a planning meeting with a leader who wanted me to come in and train leaders in systems, and not only how to do systems themselves, but how to coach others in systems. And he was getting some pushback from some of those people he was trying to recruit, because some of them were saying to him, well, systems, they're very restrictive. It really wasn't, it's not going to work in our churches. And I knew as he told me that story what the problem was. That these people, when they heard the word system, were thinking program. Now, programs can be very restrictive. You can say, well, I tried this program in my church and it didn't work. Or I went to another church and they were doing this great youth program and I brought it to my church and it failed. And so programs, if you're coming to me and telling me there's a way of doing things and it doesn't, I've seen it where it doesn't work from church to church to church to church. I would absolutely agree with that, because systems aren't programs. Systems are all the parts of something that makes a program sustainable. For example, let's talk about Netflix. Everybody knows about Netflix nowadays, and a number of you actually have Netflix. And so when you go to the television and turn it on and call up your favorite programs, you could say, well, I'm watching Netflix. And what you mean is I'm watching a program that the system of Netflix supplies to me. For me to be able to watch that program, for it to be sustained, there's a number of parts that have to be in place. There has to be somebody who's purchasing all of this movie selection that's available to me. There has to be other people who are uploading it into the system. There has to be computers that are able to be uploaded with all these things. There has to be a internet connection who can carry and stream this movie I want to watch to my home, where I have a receiver that is able to translate that stream and then broadcast that streamed movie onto my screen, which is another part of the system. In other words, I've talked about 5 different aspects that all have to work together for the program I want to watch to show up on my screen. Netflix is a system, not a program. What I watch from Netflix are programs. So the same thing about evangelizing. You say, well, let's use Evangelism Explosion, and we bring it in, and it works, or it doesn't work, and we say, well, something's wrong with this program. It doesn't work for us. Well, the problem may not be the program itself. It may be our system. Maybe we haven't defined the gospel clearly for our people to understand what it is, or maybe we're not training them properly, or maybe we're not praying for the lost together, or maybe we're not holding people accountable to be engaged in evangelism, or maybe we don't have a whole church strategy about how we're going to implement Evangelism Explosion, or maybe we're seeing people cross the line of faith but never baptizing them, so they never connect with us. And all 6 of those pieces need to be in place, because that's the system. It doesn't make any difference what program, whether we use Evangelism Explosion or an Alpha program or relationship evangelism. All of those are sustainable if the system is in place. But if the system's not in place, the program will fail. Not only that, but programs could be the wrong programs for our church. We might say Evangelism Explosion will not work where we are. So if that's the only approach, it's too restrictive. We need a system that is robust enough to support numerous different kinds of programs. That's really what system training is all about. That's why we build systems and don't adapt programs. This is what you need to keep in mind as you learn systems, that the goal here is not to learn from me the best children's program or youth program or even an evangelism program. It's learning how to build the systems that will allow us to do the biblical functions on a regular and consistent basis in our church.